Hello guys, welcome back to our channel. So in this today's video we are going to cover the next topic, enterprise application. So we have covered the rest of the topics till administrative units. So in this video we are going to cover enterprise application. So what is enterprise application in Azure Active Directory? So enterprise application is something whenever you are registering any application with Azure Active Directory, that will be showing in enterprise application, right? So the why we have to register an application in your Azure Active Directory. Let's say if you wanted to integrate that application with your Azure Active Directory or Azure environment, right? So first you have to make a connection between um, that particular application and your Azure tenant, right? So that's the reason we will usually do the application registration, right? So there are two places. One is application registration and another one is the enterprise application. So this is both are almost same, but there are some differences there. So in this enterprise application, you will be having the capability to configure the SSO and assign to the users and all everything you will be having on this enterprises application. So the enterprises application is basically for if you bring any application from external world, you can configure single sign-on. You can provide permission on certain services within the Azure Active Directory. So everything can be done on this enterprise application itself. But the application registration is just to register application in the beginning stage. So there are terms called application object and service object. Okay, so this application object is something. This is application registration, and the service object is something enterprise application. So whenever you are registering any new application, that will be showing in enterprise application, right? So that when we go into the application registration, we will go through those topics, but in this video I'm just wanted to cover only enterprise application. So the enterprise application is can be anything. It can be your on-premises application, in-house application, or application which is already there in the industry, or if you wanted to create any new application, or so those things can be comes under enterprise application. Let's see. So these are all the overview of this enterprise application page. So this is fall under Microsoft Azure AD only, and to have this option you have to have the P1 license. P1 license is sufficient enough, and even the Azure AD free also they are providing, but to have the capability of SSO and all, you need at least a P1 license. So good to have Azure Premium P1 license to use this enterprise application permission. So I hope you are now clear about the concept. So why we are registering application is to integrate that particular application with your internal user or internal system, which is because let's say if an application you wanted to access your user account from Azure AD, then you have to have the connection between that particular application and your Azure AD user accounts, right? So those kind of integration can be done by using this application registration and enterprise application. So let's say for this enterprise application, you can see I have five numbers of applications already listed in this enterprise application list. So it's basically so I'm doing multiple tests in my environment, so that's the reason it's showing multiple things. The test one, new test, everything is I tested before some days. So let's, before going into this enterprise application, let's go one by one. What are the options available? So it basically it's give overview how many total application is there, and out of the total application how many is the enterprise application, and how many is enabled that particular application. If you created any conditional access policy, that is also can be done. You can add a conditional access policy for your enterprise application which is bring externally or which is there you developed internally. Those also you can bring under the conditional access policy. You can see here add enterprise application, add on-premises app, add application registration, everything can be done here. So let's go to one by one, and this diagnosis is the normal thing for the diagnosing purpose. So let's say if I'm an administrator, I wanted to add Adobe or some other cloud solution. okay, that I wanted to integrate with my users. So my let's say for Adobe's DigiSign. So my organization wanted to use Adobe DigiSign, and they have procured the license and all everything, and they wanted to enable this application for the users. So how it can be done, right? So let's say for this new application, once you click the new application, you will be having the multiple options like this: cloud platform, where you wanted to bring the application, right? So on-premises application, if you wanted to bring, that's also you can able to bring it. And you can see here Adobe, that's what I told. The Adobe is one of the application which is supported by Azure Enterprise application natively, right? There are some applications, so usually we will be calling this as gallery applications, AzureAD gallery. So whatever the application it is showing in the featured application, that can be easily integrated, right? So these are all things it supports. Okay, let's can see here, these are the options available. If you wanted to bring on-premises application, that is also you can bring it, but you need a application proxy to access through internet your on-premises application, right? So let's say for this, I'm just typing Adobe, right? So whatever the application you wanted to integrate, first check whether it is there in the gallery application or not. So these are the application it is there in the Microsoft gallery. And one more thing is, to bring your application into this Microsoft gallery, you have to work with Microsoft, and Microsoft has some criteria that has to be met. Once that is met, then only they will add your application into this Azure AD gallery. So once you did this, it is easy for you to integrate your application with your end users identity manager like Azure AD. Okay, so here if you wanted to create your own application, that is also you can create. But in this case, we are just going to see add the enterprise application. Okay, so as I said, I'm trying to bring this Adobe DigiSign into my Azure Active Directory, and I will be configuring SSO for this Adobe Identity Management. Then all set. I will assign this application to my users. So then the SSO will be established between these users. So they can log into this particular Adobe sign in with their Azure Active Directory account itself. Let's say for this demo, uh, I'm just clicking this Azure Adobe directory, Adobe Identity Management. So you can see here, this is Adobe Identity Management. Let me create it. So I just created that. So basically I'm bringing this Adobe into my AzureAD Active Directory, and I'm going to integrate that with it. Okay, it takes some time, so let's see any other options available to discuss cloud platform. So the another cloud platform also available. So let me duplicate this to explore that. So okay, so so now it's created. You can see this is an enterprise application we just bring in. So here you can assign to your user. You can set up a single sign-on for this application. Okay, and provision user account, so self-service, everything can be done once you bring your application into your environment, right? So this basic motive of this video is just to give you the overview about the enterprise application. So you can see here, I have created this Adobe Identity Management. Now it's started reflected here, right? If you wanted to enable the single sign-on, go to the single sign-on. There are different methods is available. You can pick any one of that, and you can work with Adobe Identity to get the single sign-on configuration file. There are some metadata file and all you need to get from the application end, right? You cannot just once you added the enterprise application, then you can able to enable the SSO. No, it's not possible. You have to work with this particular company to get the metadata file for metadata file to integrate this Adobe identity with Azure Active Directory as a single sign-on feature. Okay, so these are all the things you have to specify. You have to closely work with this Adobe to configure this single sign-on, because it requires your organization and the end user company provide end user, I mean the application provider company has to work with you. So this information you have to give, and they will provide you some information to configure this. Okay, so you have to you guys and this particular Adobe team has to work together. It's not only for this Adobe, all the application, what are the application you're trying to bring in, everything has to be you have to work with that particular thing. So you can see these are all application registration, so that's the reason we are not finding a single sign-on option. Okay, so the single sign-on option is not available for application registration. If you are just bringing your on-premises application, there are some other options is available, but that's again a deep topic. So in these things, if you wanted to bring any application, any on-premises application or in-house application, then you have to plan your own single sign-on. But if you are bringing any application externally which is there in the Microsoft gallery, then it is very simple step. You just have to add that particular application in your account, and you have to provide the required permission for that particular account. It's because this application, I mean the application needs some access in your Azure Active Directory. Let's say this application need your Azure Active Directory users, then only it can validate whether that particular user is having the proper licensing on their end or not, right? So everything has to be configured. It is just I have added the application in the enterprise application. It's not mean that I'm already set everything. There are so many things we have to done on this part once you bring the particular application, this gallery application into your enterprise application section, right? So this application proxy. So the application proxy, this is what I told. Application proxy provides single sign-on. So this is for on-premises application. So the gallery application by default it will be providing that capability. You can see here this capability is there. But if it is a on-premises application, you will not be having that single sign-on option. To use that single sign-on feature, you have to bring the concept of application proxy. So for the application proxy, you have to configure it. That's another big topic again. So again, when it comes to the user settings, so you can restrict what all things can be done on the enterprise with respect to enterprise application. You can see here these are all the limitation you can provide on your organization users. But here this option is you, so once the gallery, let's say for this Adobe we added, right? If the user wanted to add in the my apps, they can add it. So that is what it's all meant for. But there are some capabilities there. You can provide permission to users, normal users, to bring request some access on the enterprise application, everything. So that is called admin consent, right? So that is you can enable or disable. This is best practice to keep it disabled. So every admin consent has to go through administrator only. So you plan like that way. That is better for your organization and you to manage this Azure Active Directory enterprise application better, right? So if you are enabling this, then you can mention what are the users that is eligible for to request admin consent. Admin consent is something, if you are bringing an application, let's say I bring that Adobe application, right? So Adobe application, as I said, may need some access. Azure Active Directory user read and write permission or read permission. Same way for what is that called? Email access, their email account access, read permission or write permission, something like that. So that permission is called admin consent. So by default, this application won't take that permission until you're granting that permission. It won't take. You have to specifically give the permission directly to the application. That's what I told in the I showed in the permission section, right? So while you're working with this Adobe, to configure single sign-on for your AzureAD, they will provide all this information. What are all the accesses required? What are all the consent user has to give in this section? Everything. And if any access is needed later on by this application, let's say you implemented this, and after some day, this Adobe is wanted to access the group permission on the Azure Active Directory, right? Then it will be in the request, it will be showing here as a required admin consent on this particular thing. So as an administrator, you can come and grant admin consent here. To grant admin consent, you have to be a global administrator. That's for sure. Okay. That's the thing. So you can control basically user actions on user action on this enterprise application here. Collection, you can group the application together, and you can provide the access to this end user. That can be done. And conditional access, as I said, you can add this enterprise application in the conditional access policy also. So based on the conditions, if you wanted to block the user's permission, that can be done. So that is also we will see when we discuss about the conditional access policy. Consent and permission again. So these are all the settings you wanted to define in your Azure Active Directory. Who are all requests for consent? See here I have mentioned allow user consent for apps. Let's say if any user account is accessing the Adobe, suddenly the Adobe is asking some user consent. Okay, that can be given by user itself. If you are blocking do not allow user consent means, then that will be stored, that will be pending for the consent approval. Then as administrator you can go ahead and consent it. Okay, so as of now this is best practice. Do not allow user consent to themselves. Okay, because end user may not have idea what are the permission this particular application is asking, right? So you have to be give do not allow only. If any user consent is required, let it come, and you can as administrator you can consent, you can review it, and you can consent whether you wanted to give a permission for that request or not. You can decide, right? So this permission, that's what again. So when you are providing the user consent to your user, what are all the things you can allow them to consent it? And there are two permission is there, delegated permission and admin permission. So that is also we will see when we are seeing the application registration. So again, when this is a permission related stuff, so when you are clicking the permission to add anything, you'll be having two option. Let me show you right away. All application, Azure identity. So if you go here, this permission, let's say this is not showing up here. Review the permission. Okay. So for this one, we have to provide the permission on application registration only. That's the reason I told. So if you go to the permission, you will be having an option to provide a permission. So these are all the things you have. These are all the permission section what it is showing here, right? So if you wanted to request any permission means, then you have to go back to application registration. That's what I told. We will cover that section on application registration. So if you go to the application registration, you can see this API is the application I registered. If I go here, API permission, whatever I am requesting here, that will be showing there. So you can see here application permission, delegated permission. So what we were discussing is this delegation permission only we can define. So the application permission is only concerned by administrator. That's what it's meant for, this consent. So this classification, you can, the classification permission, you can provide this only delegated permission only you can configure here. If it is an application level permission, it cannot be configured from here. It has to be done only by the global administrator or the application administrator, right? So let's go to the next option, sign on. So again, this sign on options, normal thing. User and insight is showing how many application successful authentication happened, everything like that. And ADFS, if you have configured any ADFS application, that is also can be done here, that is also can be seen here, but we don't have any ADFS environment now. And provisioning logs, if you provisioning anything, that will be showing under provisioning logs. And if you are granting any permission or something, that will be showing under provisioning log. And audit logs, as usual, whatever you are doing, that will be audited. Access reviews, admin consent. So this is what I told. If you are not providing permission to end user, all the consent requests will be showing here. Then you can come and review it one by one. You can decide whether you wanted to provide that particular requested permission to the particular application or not. Bulk operation, if you have done any bulk operation, it can be seen here. So these are all the things is available for you guys under this enterprise application, right? So right, properties, you can see here, if you click on this, users, owners, you can assign owner permission for anyone to manage this application. And as I said, you can provide the once we register this application, application itself, it's taken some AzureAD administrator role. These application roles are required to do some required administrator permission on your environment. User and groups, as I said, once you configure the SSO, you have to add your users here. Then whosoever mapped here as a user, they will be able to use the SSO feature, right? So the SSO feature is something SAML is there, right? So go here and you have to get this information from the Adobe. They will provide this information, what is the URL you have to give for the SSO enablement. And once you fill all the information, see, they are requesting this permission, this data from your tenant. So you just have to give everything, whatever it's required. So for this thing, you have to work together with Adobe, and you can able to done the thing. So once you provide this information, it will generate a federation metadata. Then this you have to download and share it to Adobe. Then Adobe will configure this federation metadata from their end. Once they done that that configuration, then you are all set to use the SSO. Okay, so provisioning is something automation one should not needed now. And self-service, if you want to enable self-service, that also can be done, but for that you have to configure SSO, right? So the permission, as I said, so these are all the permission whatever we are requested in the application registration, that will be showing here. So for this application, let's say for Azure Identity Access Management, let's go to the application registration and we'll look for the Adobe Identity. See, this is the Adobe Identity Management. So whatever the application or permission request you wanted to make, that has to be made from here. Okay, let's say I'm adding this permission, Azure rights management. So if you remember this delegated permission, whatever fall under delegated permission, that only can be configured in the previous section what we saw on the permission classification. So here you can see this particular service is having only one permission, so one delegated permission option. So when you are adding this user, it doesn't need it's asking admin consent, because I'm not provided the user to consent us, right? So again you have to go ahead and as a global administrator you have to click this grant admin consent, then only this particular Adobe Identity Management have access on Azure Rights Management Service, this particular permission, create access and protected content for users, right? See, if I go to the rights itself, again the other option is there, application permission. So there are some application permission is there, so this is differ based on the services. Okay, so now I'm giving application read all. So see, now it is asking not granted for M6. So see, this user Since I'm a global administrator, it is not this, usually this delegation permission won't ask any consent, but when you are giving application permission, it will ask you to consent. So as a normal user or as an application administrator, you cannot grant this access. So since I logged in as a global administrator, if I click this grant consent, then it will provide the consent. So yeah, this is all about this enterprise application. If you have any doubt, please feel free to put it in the comment section. We will discuss about those doubts. And if you are thinking this video is helpful and our channel is helping you to learn something on Azure, please feel free to subscribe our channel and share it to your friends. Thank you guys. Have a great day.